everyone, welcome back to Candid Coffee. We are shooting in Long Island City, New York with Sam, Armen. Over the course of just a couple of months, you've done 18 marathons on Instagram where you've co-hosted with your friend Armen, who you co-host with, and also you are doing a live with another person, myself included. Many great names.
You did a great job on the live, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I did speak on the live, and I told your viewers what I have been doing with Candid Coffee, and you have been persistent and putting so much of your time and effort into raising money. Tell me how that's been going and where that money went, and are you going to continue doing it?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's a pleasure, and after watching some of the videos you've made on Candid Coffee, it's an honor to be here. And I want to say, first of all, thank you.
Thank you.
As for the marathons, so we have done 18. They're usually 8 people, 30 minutes each, and we've calculated it as 2.8 days of just pure material, hour to hour. We have raised, in the beginning, so our first one was on November 6th, and our second one was on November 7th. It was just me in the beginning. And the goal was to fundraise for Armenia Fund, and this was on November 6th. So the war hadn't ended yet. We didn't know if there was going to be an end in sight, but there was a lot of urgency at this point.
Of course.
So the goal was to increase the exposure, because a lot of this required people knowing what's going on. So, through my experiences with CoOp, my experiences with the AGBU, my experiences with just being Armenian and traveling and being excited to meet other Armenians, I had a pretty large collection of people internationally I could reach out to.
Right.
So we reached out
and who trusted you too.
Yeah, so I basically reached out to 16, 17 of my friends from different cities across the world. And it was a huge hit. We ended up raising something like $14,000 in 2 nights. But perhaps more importantly, and that was for Armenia Fund, which was the main thing that everyone was donating to at the time.
Right.
For me, I think the thing I really cared about was the exposure. It was maddening to know that these media channels weren't covering anything. And I thought to myself, I'm always thinking about how can I make this as, for the laziest possible consumer, how can I make this accessible? So there's the language barrier, there's the culture barrier, there's the how close are they to you barrier. So
geographically. Yeah.
Exactly, geographic barrier. So I was thinking, so why not my friend from Montreal, my friend from Toronto? Why not my friend from Sao Paulo? Why not my friend from Greece, from Russia, and different parts of the United States? Why not, and in Armenia, why not have these individuals together in one group speak about what is happening, so that their friends, many of whom might not know exactly what's going on, see this kind of collection of information.
Right.
So it was really about, at that point, it was about identifying what's going on. But now it's definitely evolved since then.
Right, of course. And I think people would be like, wow, so-and-so from this end of the world to this end of the world, and all in the United States and Canada and everywhere, were like minute to minute tuning in with you, giving their time to you so that they can talk about how they're helping and raising as much as possible. That's amazing. And I know that a lot of times it's disheartening and you feel hopeless after November 9th.
Yes.
But I think it's so important to still say, guys, please, we still need to have that urgency in us, and we still need to raise X amount of money, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I know that you're really vocal, and you go from here to Armenia all the time. You just came back from Armenia last week.
Can you tell?
No, you look very refreshed. But yeah, you're always going back and forth and making sure that your voice is heard all around. What are your plans in the upcoming months?
So just the one thing that I would maybe zoom in on is, it's not necessarily my voice. I feel like I am just a loudspeaker for other people, and I'm very comfortable being that loudspeaker. or that megaphone, but again, more of like a tool or a piece of like an amplifier, if you will, for other people's initiatives. With the lives and with many things that I do, it's honestly all about identifying the different talent and resources across the world that are pro-Armenian, meaning they can benefit Armenia to some degree. So it's about identifying them, empowering them through that identification, the fact that there's 8 people that are going to be interviewed alongside for the lives, for example, and just so empowering, identifying, and unifying them, because they're all together. So this one example that comes to mind is there's this half Lithuanian, half Armenian tattooist who lives in Vienna, who I interviewed, and this half Armenian, half black artist in Los Angeles. And I interviewed them on the same Instagram Live with 8 people. And then 2 days later, I saw that they were both live.
Together.
And they were together, and they were raising funds for CoOp. And they hadn't, to my knowledge, they hadn't known about CoOp before, before I started speaking to them. And that to me is almost like prophetic. It's almost like being able to see what's going to happen in the future. It's like a sample of foresight. And that's how I feel about all of these things. So whether it's going to interview Eric Hakopian and have him express his very grounding sentiments to people who are especially frazzled in a particular moment.
Right.
Whether it's Richard Elmoyan, whom you interviewed as well, providing geopolitical analyses to better clarify things. When you're confused, when you don't have the political or geopolitical or social literacy to differentiate different things, someone can tell you something bad and you can't discern the veracity of it. You can't discern how truthful it might be or how completely fictitious it can be. And
it's just going to keep provoking you.
And that yields anxiety.
Yes, of course.
And when we're anxious, we are very far away from the most important things we need right now, which is being able to be grounded, logical, being able to access long-term memory so we can properly contextualize anything that's happening. And also, when we're in a perpetual state of anxiety, the worry about it is when people are stressed, they identify angry stimulus more. So like when you're angry, studies have shown you notice angry faces quicker because you're angry. It's an evolutionary thing. When you're calm and relaxed, you're better able to grasp the objectivity of the things you're saying.
And make decisions as well.
And then make decisions logically.
Right, exactly.
So that my goal is just to provide, to be a megaphone, whether it's through lives or just capturing something in Armenia. When I'm visiting Armenia, a lot of what I want to do is, again, provide that clarity.
Right.
So when I go to a cafe or to a party or anything like that, it's not just to have a good time. It is. It definitely is to have a good time as well.
Yeah.
But it's honestly to broadcast that Armenia isn't just a bunch of people hanging their heads low.
Yes.
And again, that to me is what literacy is. Literacy is the ability to discern things. It's like, when you wake up and you don't have your contacts on, you can't really see between different things. Literacy to me is that focusing, that sharpening of the lenses.
Yeah.
The diasporans, I think, suffer from this inability to grasp all the nuances that are happening in Armenia. And when one person was asking me, is Armenia safe now? Armenia is one of the safest places in the world. Kids can be out at 11 o'clock at night and there's no worry. But
our vision of Armenia right now is very blurred because we still don't really know what's going on. We feel like we're in the dark about a lot of things. A lot of things are censored, which I was talking to Jules about. We still need a very logical voice of reason, grounded voice of reason in Armenia to tell us what's going on here, especially in English, so we get it. I feel like that's why Eric Hakopian is pretty popular. When we first spoke, you told me that there were how many? 600 or 900 villages in Armenia or something like that.
Like 950.
Okay. Yeah, 950 villages. And you just, you showed me the website, you showed me how transparent CoOp has been, how much you've helped the kids, the schools you've built, just amazing stuff.
That CoOp has built.
Has built, right. I want you to explain to our viewers and people who, I know there's a lot of people who know what you do on your live, but just for Candid Coffee's viewers, what is your role in CoOp and how much success have they had as far as rebuilding?
So in terms of my own role, I'm more of a behind the scenes person. I'm tapped when I can be most useful, which is usually networking, event planning, sometimes a media thing. I also had the fortune of the absolute privilege of being able to teach in Armenia a creative writing program. But CoOp is an interesting entity. As you know, my father started CoOp in 2004. Would it be worth telling you about its inception?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely
So,
worth it.
it's actually a pretty interesting story. So a group of philanthropists were traveling across Armenia, and they were heading from Gyumri, I believe it was Gyumri, down back towards Yerevan. My father made a promise to our friend, who's a priest, to visit this one village called Karakert, the city of stone, for anyone who doesn't know. And so he went there, and he met this, the first person he sees is this old man. He asks they get out of the car, and they ask the old man, why is everyone just outside? Why are the adults not working? The man says, well, there's no work here. So the obvious next question is, well, then how are you
living?
How are you alive?
Yeah, exactly.
And they said, we live off the land. Now, Armavir region, which is the province west of Yerevan, is a pretty arid landscape. It's a lot of desert land as well. So it's living off the land is not easy in a climate like that. So he asked this old man, is there where can I go to get more information, to learn more? So this man tells my dad, you should visit the school. That would be a good place to start. Visits the school. The school is in conditions that are heart-wrenching.
Yes.
And you see water-damaged ceilings, these like gossamer window replacements that are just like flapping with holes in them. The floor is broken in so many places. There's jagged metal sticking out of some of the desks and chairs. And it's not because the teachers, the students, or anything. There's a reason why this happened, and I can get into that in a second. They went back after this, and my father offered this man money for providing him a resource to understand this village better. And what do you think the man said, as an Armenian man?
Yeah, probably prideful, didn't want to take it.
No, not at all. And then obviously there's a fight. Almost.
No, I don't want it.
Almost cliche.
Yeah.
And then my father, trying to figure out a way to get this guy to accept the money, threatens to rip the money, and saying, "Then none of us have it." And the man says, "If you're going to give the money to anyone, you should give it to my neighbor because he's not doing well." My father, you have to think relatively. My father, looking at this individual who he sees his home, he sees his family, he sees his conditions.
Right.
Saying that someone is in far worse conditions.
Right.
That's doubly heartbreaking.
Right, of course.
So then within about a year, a similar group of philanthropists come with my father. They go to this man, they start talking to him. They say, okay, let's get the movers and shakers here. Like, who do we talk to about this?
What do we got to do? Shoot fast, yeah.
So they go to the mayor. The mayor says, okay, we'll have a town hall meeting. We'll get everyone together. We'll figure out what to do. So these individuals who were founding CoOp were basically, they've been in board meetings before. So they're expecting a pretty close, the whole village shows up.
Wow.
And we have this amazing picture of...
I'm going to show that.
Yeah, this amazing picture of this little girl, and she's looking up at our treasurer going like this, and she's listing the problems. She's listing the problems in the village, of which the problems are first the magnitude of them, and then the range of them. So the reason why this happened, this is important.
And this is all in Armavir.
This at this moment, yes, this is specifically in like the almost northwest part of Armavir.
Okay.
Kind of central actually, but north. And this is all in Kandid. So when the Soviets came in, they built what's called artificial villages, which is essentially a means of production, power plant, warehouse, vochinch, whatever it is. And then they would have homes around it. This makes sense. You go to work, it's right there. It's an efficient way to go. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in 91, 92, this entire power structure collapsed, essentially overnight with no contingency plan. This means no electricity, no water, running water, no heat. Armenia gets, as you know, blisteringly cold and really hot. They had no means of re-upping like medical supplies. They had no means of sanitation. The list, this would be an infinite list, by the way.
Right.
So,
and this isn't just not to cut you off, but this is in 2003.
this is about 2004 now.
Okay, 2004.
At this point of the story,
Okay,
yeah. But with the Soviets, it was 91, 92, obviously.
Right,
yeah.
right, of course.
So these people were forgotten for a decade, and many of these villages are still there
Right.
in this particular state. What we did is we had them list all the problems, and I'm saying we, like I was a little kid, maybe like 12 years old when this was happening, but still in Armenia and seeing this from the nascent stages to right now, which is a very different story now. It's an even better story now. Out of all these problems, the number one thing that the society, this village of about 1,000 people, a little bit over 1,000 people, wanted was education for their children.
Of course.
And that's another like almost heartbreaking thing, but it's a proud heartbreak though.
Right, right.
So
that's where you come in.
That's where it became the Children of Armenia Fund. So they built one school essentially right after the ribbon cutting, where the school is officially opened. A neighboring village, Lernogog, came in and basically said, what were our sins? Why didn't you choose us? We're a large village, we have problems.
Right.
So then CoOp followed that same method. CoOp didn't just build a school. They took a school that was existing, and they found the local carpenters, local glassmakers, road pavers.
Gave everybody jobs to do.
For the first time for a decade.
Right.
At least.
Right.
And these individuals, they're in no way dumb. You know, we have in America, especially the idea that villagers are, backwoods or whatever. Their stories, success stories about them after CoOp doing their own sort of projects and making their own sort of money, because now for once they have capital. Maybe someone's brother is a carpenter, can borrow.
Exactly.
And we've seen this, a corner store opened up in Karakirt after a year after the school opened. It had nothing to do with CoOp. We didn't do anything about it.
Right, but because of people working and generating this
microeconomy,
exactly.
Yeah,
Word of mouth.
So then with Lernogod, we did the same thing. The idea was, okay, well, what resources do you have? What carpenters do you have? What education specialists do you have? What is the terrain like? What is the climate like? Is there an agriculture opportunity?
Right.
And they chose what they wanted. They were the ones who led. So it's a tailor-made approach. So then we scattered all across Armavir and created what's called a cluster model. So you have a bunch of villages, and then the villages started to communicate with each other with after-school clubs, debate clubs, and the students started to lead these things. The students started to make debate clubs. The students started to create these theater programs.
Clubs and things.
And like that would never happen, because you have to think of the Soviet idea, the Soviet concept was deviation from the norm is a big no-no.
Of course.
So the fact that students who had never really consciously experienced the Soviet Union were going against what a lot of their parents were saying, like, no, don't trust big empires or entities like CoOp, which it was not a big entity, but to them, obviously.
Right.
And then, now we're in 64 villages, still doing that same approach with 107,000 benefactors, which we prefer calling partners.
Right.
Because they have a central role in all of this.
Right.
To the degree...
So 64 villages, new schools, not only just new schools, but computers.
Oh, everything.
A curriculum, more classes available to them. Things that they wouldn't have even...
Hospitals, it depends on what the village needs. One village in the Aragatsotan region, which is one north of Armavir, has great agriculture, but the village wasn't yielding enough. So with new farming technology, farming training, fixing the irrigation pipeline, not only did we provide clean, drinkable water to over 1,000 families, but also we actually increased we helped them increase, or they helped themselves increase their crop yield by 16 times over.
Wow.
So imagine the Los Angeles economy. It's not really GDP, but the GDP of just California increasing 16 times over.
Right.
You would be bathing in gold,
Right.
So for that kind of thing, it's not just education, but it is focused on
Around
the youth.
the children, right?
Yeah.
Of course, and everywhere you can help those children.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that some of these children may start off in like kindergarten or first or second grade, and then they grow up and finish high school, and they start working.
Yeah.
And they start teaching, and they start engaging like as a teacher's assistant or things like that. So they are expanding their minds, and you're creating opportunities as they grow, which is amazing too.
That's one of the interesting things, because some people are shocked by it, and some people are not surprised at all by it. Because Armenia has, I hate the word brain drain, because that signifies that what's left is brainlessness, which is a stupid thing. But what has happened is many people have left Armenia because there was a lack of opportunity.
Of course.
And with the idea that you have children who, let's say, one of them, this one student studied engineering at the university, and when she was done, she went back to her village and built, she designed and built an eco-friendly, music-themed bus station for her village at the corner of her village, because people would be out in the rain or the burning sun or the piles of snow, and now they had a place where they'd be listening to music, and it's solar powered.
And it's covered.
Yeah.
Okay, to give them shelter and shade.
Yeah, and I mean that's someone who, her family, and I can't speak for them, but I would assume they had some scruples about any sort of entity coming forward and saying, we're here to help. Because the Ottoman Empire was there to help.
Right.
They said, the Soviet Union was there to help. Now, what happened in those two are very different consequences, but you reduce it to the binary of, was it a good thing or a bad thing? Both ended up being a bad thing for the Armenian people, long term.
Yeah, of course, and it triggered them, and it made them not trust you, and it made them be cynical or skeptical.
Which I very much welcome.
Right.
I think we should be as cynical as possible of every single entity and individual that comes
their way. Yeah.
Armenia,
because you have to question it.
Of course, I mean, how many times do we have to be genocided, destroyed, picked on, bullied, taken advantage of, or leveraged?
Yes.
It's, and this I think leads to something that I know a lot of people are talking about. Armenia's biggest strengths are non-tangible. They're not assets that you can monetize.
Exactly. It's all up here.
Yeah. Here and here perhaps. It's the hospitality.
Yes.
It is the adoration and aptitude for chess. There's so many different things, the particular forms of culture, which one could argue that culture can be monetized, but I think that's more of a philosophical debate than anything. There has to be a medium to create that entity that you can capitalize on. Whether it's movies or shows, we don't have that industry. We haven't made that into an industry. Not a bulky one, not reaching anywhere near what it can be.
Right, exactly.
So what Armenians, I think, need to do, and when I say Armenians, I'm not a diasporan talking to the locals. I'm an Armenian talking to all Armenians, is that we need to uplift Armenian blanks, Armenian movie stars, Armenian show hosts, Armenian, any of these things, but we can't, I want my children, when the credits roll of a movie, we see an IAN or YAN last name, and we're so happy, or you're reading a book and there's an Armenian name, you get so excited. I don't want that anymore. I want to be jaded to it. I want to see Armenian names everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have
you're not
as
surprised anymore.
Yeah, and that's what I want. And
it's going to take so long for that, Banjon.
Maybe.
Sam.
Maybe. I'm in between there.
Yeah.
Because I have an advantage that I think most people don't. I've gotten to interview 140 people who are nothing short of phenomenal.
Right.
You know, whether they're a singer, an actor, an activist, and all those things while in grad school studying social work.
Right.
Who also organized or co-organized the biggest Armenian rally in the tri-state area ever, and she's 25 or so. That's Ani from Armenian Unity Project. Whether it's interviewing Araxia Karapetyan, who I don't think needs any sort of introduction. She's like furiously powerful in what she can do.
Yeah, she has a big voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's so many other people that I've had the chance to speak to. I'm like, you have immense talent. We've interviewed 16 psychologists at least, and they're phenomenal. We've had lawyers, geopolitical, all sorts of political figures. I do think it will be quicker than we imagine, but that's only if we work together.
Right.
You know, I'm all for debating. I'm all for disagreeing. In fact, to me, that's how knowledge evolves.
Exactly.
I say something.
We need to be open-minded to, even though you disagree, you have to hear that other person out and think.
At least to come to the table.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Where was your dad from before he got to that village and he saw his friend and then the whole thing evolved? Is he from Boston? Where was he born? Where did he go? And then, yeah.
So my dad is from Turkey. He's from Istanbul.
Okay.
And he'll be the first to tell you if you prod him enough, he'll tell you about being an Armenian in Turkey, what that was like. I'd rather not speak for him on that particular issue.
Right.
But I will say that any Armenian will tell you that it's riddled with problems, with challenges and difficulties. My father's mother was dying of breast cancer, and when he was 17 years old, he left Turkey to come to the United States with, I think less than $200 in his pocket, and his mother dying of breast cancer. My father's interest was physical chemistry, and he got his PhD in it, and impressed his professors so much that they actually hired him. Before that, he was working at a gas station, and he noticed that the price on the canisters, I believe this would be the term, was 89 cents a barrel, or 89 cents a gallon, then 90 cents, then 91 cents. You can't just carve a ones digit. The government is eventually going to have to recall all of these and then purchase new ones. So he essentially invested with the little money that he was acquiring with the work that he was doing while in school, while his mother is dying of breast cancer. He invested in new gas canisters that would again be to him an inevitability. Now, this is not someone who was trained in economics or anything. What he says is, I have a good nose.
Right.
And then he points to his nose, and it's like, that's okay, interesting. Now the immigrant side is showing a little bit, and that ended up being a very logical decision with great foresight. And my father said, this Wall Street stuff, like, I can figure this stuff out. So with his interest in physical chemistry and with his interest in economics, understanding the economics of things, he started, invested in, founded, created, launched Agenus, which was previously Antigenics, which is essentially, to summarize it in a way that's graspable, it's immunotherapy. It's leveraging the immune system to conquer maladies.
Okay.
So,
in layman's terms?
So if someone has cancer, cancer is basically regular cells behaving irrationally and the immune system not being able to detect it. Because it's not like the composition is very different, that your immune system would see it and be like, no, you're gone. It is when the cells start behaving in a way that's perhaps clandestine, the immune system can't see that those are the ones that are bad. So it's basically teaching the immune system. And now immunotherapy is a pretty big, super hot thing that everyone's into, but it's essentially teaching the body, leveraging the body's own immune system. It's almost like education, sort of, but on a cellular level.
Wow.
So that was his interest, and actually very recently.
I'm trying to process that as you're saying it. Yeah.
I can tell you a story that I don't think he's told anyone. This will be an exclusive.
Oh, okay.
The crazy thing, yeah, right. I actually have that button on my phone. Whenever my students say something wonderful, I go. So, when my dad was a little kid, essentially almost a toddler, he was like 3 years old or something, or 2 years old, in Istanbul, he was stung by a poisonous scorpion on his thigh.
Jeez.
And his grandmother, who was not educated in medicine,
right.
or educated,
right.
He'll say this too, educated like academically instructed, was not. She saw his leg swelling, saw this scorpion, grabbed it, bashed it against a rock until it was this bubbling paste, and shoved it into his wound and cured him instinctively because it has its own antibodies, or antivenom. That's what my dad does.
Some Spider-Man shit, man. That's crazy.
But think about how that. It's using an immune system to fix you. And I said this to my dad. I goes, did you ever make the connection between these two things? My dad was like, no. And I was like, how?
Yeah. How did you? Wow.
Yeah. And I find it to be like an amazing thing. Yeah. One that's, as someone who studies psychology, that someone taps into this like.
Can you imagine how traumatic that is for a 3-year-old? Like,
imagine for the grandmother.
I know.
You're the one babysitting your grandchild, your future, your legacy.
Yeah.
And they're a scorpion of all unexciting ways to go out. But she saved his life without any sort of academic institutional
instincts. Wow.
It's amazing when you think of instinct, like a knowledge in instinct.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Now perhaps my father didn't know that she, read a textbook about this particular type of scorpion when she was a little girl or something.
Yeah. That is such a great story about your dad. Wow. I love stories like that because we were talking about, to circle back, by the way, we were talking about the story I told in the Diaspora Diaries about my grandfather's father leaving Turkey, then going to Greece, then having my papi, then my papi went to Vartashen and had my dad, then I was born in Yerevan, and so on and so on. So one person survived out of that story. So I love stories like that. That's so cool that you shared that with me. Thank you.
That alone, by the way, is wild. That just one survivor of an entire family, and then produces you, and produces 3 sons. Yeah.
Then the 3 sons, one stayed in Armenia, one went to Greece, one went to America, and then my father and Hopar and Horkud were born from my papi, and so myself and my cousins are all that's left of that lineage of my papi's dad.
And if he hadn't survived.
We wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here right now, So 9 kids, he was one that survived.
There are few cultures that have to articulate stuff like that.
I know.
Can do it with such a calmness because we're almost jaded to trauma.
Yes, we are. So whenever I heard that story, I was like, wow, I've heard a similar story of survival so many times from people my age or older because we all survived somehow to get to, Egypt and Greece and, Canada and United States, wherever it was. We had to survive to get here, and thank goodness that we did. Otherwise, my kids wouldn't be here and all that stuff. So, by the way, speaking of...
And also all the people that you've interviewed, all the things that you've done wouldn't have become a reality.
Right, exactly. My brother just had a son, which is the only male in our family. So I'm done with the factory. So I'm glad he had a boy, and that's the only Cumrian that's going to go down in history. So
maybe from a nomenclature standpoint, but from a genetic standpoint.
From a genetic surname standpoint, So glad that happened. I would love to know the story, and I'm sure my viewers would too, because it's so amazing when you hear something that is both heartbreaking but also very inspiring. Let's go back to...
that could describe the Armenian experience, by the way. Mm-hmm. Heartbreaking but inspiring.
Yes. Yeah. And you're such a young person to have a story like that, because always older people who have stories like that. I want to give a little bit of a background. In 1988, there was a massive and catastrophic earthquake that happened in the city of Gyumri and Lenakan. And every Armenian that you talk to remembers where they were at that moment when it happened, or they had friends or family that were in the area, or even maybe perhaps some of them that, you know, they've lost, or friends of friends that they've lost. Could you tell me what happened to you at that time and how old you were when that happened?
So my birthday is October 12th, 1988, and I was born in Gyumri. And the Gyumri Spitak earthquake was devastating. It was a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. It killed, in terms of the estimates, is between 25,000 and 50,000 people. It injured 113,000 people. It caused billions and billions of dollars of damage that I don't think has ever been accurately assessed. There are assessments, but you can't really, you've destroyed businesses, homes, theaters, everything. And Gyumri is an art city. A lot of it hasn't
even been recovered or rebuilt.
No, there's still the cracks in the earth. And I was 56 days old when it happened, and was already, I think my biological mother at the time, it was understood that she was already going through quite a few different struggles. So she left me at one of the orphanages there in Gyumri. And I didn't really know this until I was about 14, how complex and interweaving my life story is. And I wrote about it in Hetk, the Armenian investigative journalist media outlet. And it was one of the most intense experiences in my life to learn about all the facets that led to me being able to be here. And it's wild. So there's this woman, Stella Gregorian, who's a phenomenal human, who was, she's a Texan, and she was working in Gyumri, I believe with or affiliated with the JCC, Jewish Community Centers, to help rebuild. There's a bunch of initiatives to help rebuild during the earthquake.
This is post-earthquake, yeah? Okay.
So now it's maybe 2-3 years after I'm in this orphanage. And she sees this boy who's outside, and she's wondering why this one kid is consistently outside, and essentially it's kind of like a courtyard. And she finally goes downstairs and goes up to me, and she's about to say something, and I say to her, like, let me show you inside. I grab her hand, and she's kind of like, okay. So she goes inside, and she sees this is an orphanage for mentally disabled children. And because I was born severely cross-eyed, at a young age, you perhaps not always be able to articulate yourself to distinguish whether or not you have certain special needs or not. But because when you're severely cross-eyed, you see two worlds simultaneously. Yeah. And sometimes it's very tough to know which one is the one that's in front of you. So you'll see air, and then you'll see an overlay, almost like faded onto it, a wall. Mm-hmm. And you won't know if when you walk forward, it's a wall or air. So you'll walk differently, you'll behave differently, you'll get frustrated very quickly.
Of course, yeah. And you were born this way?
Severely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she saw me, and she pieced this together because she's been educated in America and was, understood that I wasn't necessarily mentally disabled. I was physically disabled.
Right,
I had a physical abnormality.
Right.
So she kind of set the ball rolling for me to be transported essentially to America to get my eyes fixed, to get them corrected.
And how long did she have to interact with you to see that, you were mentally all there, but you had a physical impairment that was so bad that, it's
what I understand,
essentially scared your mother?
It was our initial interaction. She pieced it together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's also, when you're talking, so everyone who works there are essentially doctors and nurses. Mm-hmm. Again, because of what kind of orphanage this is. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So with a large group of philanthropists, basically had me brought over to New Jersey, mm-hmm. Essentially, I believe it would be Englewood, to these two Armenian Americans, Gregory and Marianne Saradarian. who are in my phone saved as the best people in the world still. I consider them my grandparents. So I stayed with them for about 1 year, between the ages of 3.5 to 4.5 about. And this was the first time I had a family. This is the first time I had, they gave me my first birthday party at 4 years old. I don't know what that was.
Right.
They, everything. I also, again, I'm borderline obsessed with psychology, and I have figured out that I think the reason why I love writing so much is because I was given a family at the same time in which I was taught English. So I think those two things have, at that young age, things can kind of stick together a bit. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love reading and writing and just the English language so much, because I think there's a resonation of that familial love that was a new thing for me at that time. So they weren't just holding on to me for a year while I was getting my eyes fixed. They were letting the Armenian community know on the East Coast that there's this boy from Gyumri who very fortunately survived the earthquake, survived abandonment, survived all of these things, who is, to them, a loving person. So what they did was, on my 4th birthday, they had my hero was Big Bird. I don't know why I worshipped a 8-foot pigeon, but for my 4th birthday, it's all these people here, and I knew some of them because I would stay with people for a weekend, basically, for people to know who I am and maybe even adopt me. And these weren't strangers taking me, obviously.
Right. They were friends of those people that were taking care of you initially.
Who wanted to know a little bit about, like, can they have, they already have 2 or 3 kids, can they have a 3rd or 4th? So the doorbell rings, and they're like, Samvel, who is that? You should get the door. And I'm like, okay. I remember so clearly, and I'm so happy this memory hasn't faded at all. I left this playroom and went around to the corridor, went down the stairs. I remember seeing the sun was like perfectly in the sky, that it went through the refracted glass, created prisms on the wall. I opened the door and, blinded for a moment, didn't trust my eyes, and then focused, and it was Big Bird standing right in front of me, and I scream. I'm like, this is amazing, and I get so excited. I just had the surgery, so I have a patch on my eye. And
so you could see much better, but you have a patch on your eye. It was after the surgery.
Yeah.
Okay, for your birthday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the Armenian Report, I believe was the name. Oh man, I hope I don't mess that up. The Armenian Report, I think, was the name. It's now a defunct newspaper, but they were huge across the East Coast. Everyone had it. The Armenian Reporter or Armenian Report. And they had a photographer there who took a snapshot, made a little blurb about, boy gets to meet Armenian boy from Gyumri who survived the earthquake, gets to meet his hero, Big Bird. There's a picture of me in Big Bird's arms with a huge smile.
Yeah.
And, it's my hero.
Yeah. Imagine Big Bird spoke Armenian. That would be great.
Big Bird did speak Armenian, because Big Bird was Baron Krikor, Greg's, it was a family member. Yeah. So Big Bird was fluent in Armenian. We should spread the word. For exactly. My little sliver of life, my cameo in this existence. Yeah. So anyway, that photograph went pretty far. And, Digin Mariam and Baron Krikor, or Mr. Gregory and Miss Marianne, had quite a few people who were like, we want to adopt this child. And, my dad was helping this company called Elan, which is a pharmaceutical company in Ireland that was in real financial trouble, which is, again, pharmaceutical company, and who can do pharmaceuticals and finance simultaneously. So they asked my dad to help them out. So
and this is, just to clarify, this is the dad that got bitten by the scorpion, that came here when he was 17
with his mother dying
of breast cancer. Just so people know the story, because they're gonna think, who's your dad? Because you're adopted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
Well, he wasn't then, and so he's in Ireland, in Dublin, and he basically gets the call. This is back when the Concorde existed. Basically was given the call like, oh, Sambel is, he's available now. Because there was another family that was almost gonna adopt me. But Digin Mariam basically told them, no way. Like, because they weren't good enough to her.
In her opinion, yeah.
And for a particular reason. Should I tell you? Was it worth going to? I'll be very quick. So basically, like, when it's time for dinner, traditionally it would be the potential mother that would get up to help, or it could be both parents, potential parents getting up to help. When Digin Mariam was getting ready, when she was meeting them, she got up to make dinner. They didn't get up. That was a strike for her. I also love Thomas the Tank Engine and had a blanket of Thomas the Tank Engine with all the characters in this grid. And when I was going to stay with them, she took the parents to the side and said, listen, if you want him to be comfortable, like, put this on his bed. It'll
Yeah, it's a security blanket, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
When she visited them, she found it like discarded in the laundry room. And when she confronted them, they were like, oh, we have cleaner blankets. And she was like, if you think this is a hygiene thing, or the hygiene takes precedent over comforting this kid who has been through a lot, then you just don't have the capacity to even be worthy. And good on her. She's a very intelligent person and like super sharp. So anyway, so that fell through. So called Dr. Garo Armen and told him. He flew with the Concorde basically to New York.
Right, from Ireland.
Then drove to New Jersey with the family. And I didn't know that Digin Mariam and Baron Kriko were like gonna. At the time, I was thinking, am I being gotten rid of again? And my father described it as, I was screaming and crying throughout the entire car ride until we went over the bridge. When we went over the bridge, I knew we couldn't go back, and I just stopped. I think my dad knew that I was already a psychoanalytic person, because I would look and be like, if that's not going to work past this giant structure, I'm not gonna win here.
Yeah. So you stopped crying and you realized you're going to go to a new home.
Yeah, and not in a good way though. I just realized that I wasn't going to win this battle. Perhaps the next one. And in my brother wrote in. My brother's 4 years older. His name is Zach. He's an amazing person. He's also a giant. He wrote in, I believe, in 4th grade, an essay about having a younger brother, suddenly.
Adopted younger brother that just came out of nowhere. Right.
Though they were obviously speaking about it, it's just like, here I am, and I don't speak English well, and yet. Now I'm still learning, but so he would speak about it. So our rooms were connected, and he heard me crying every night.
Yeah.
And he heard me like trying to hide my crying. And clearly I wasn't doing a good job. I think the way he wrote it was like a cooing was the word he used.
Yeah.
And my brother was playing basketball one day, and he shot. He would shoot, and I saw this ball, and I grabbed it, and he snatched it from me. And I think in that moment, I was just so angry that, like, when I was speaking in Armenian to Digin Mariam and Baron Kriko, I could discuss philosophy with them, and not that I was necessarily intelligent or anything, but I was at least articulate enough to be able to express
yourself,
what I wanted,
right.
I saw.
But you were struggling in English at the time.
I couldn't describe that. I also wanted to take that orange bouncing thing and put it into that metal circle. I couldn't describe that. Digin Mariam was saying that one day I was negotiating with them about staying up an hour later than my bedtime. This is when I'm 3, and she says, why should we let you stay up late? And I looked at her and I said, because I give you guys life. I give you guys a reason. And they were like, damn.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
oh, no.
deep. Okay, you can stay up a little bit.
And now I can't ask for a basketball. So it makes you feel unintelligent, but even more so, it makes you feel like you don't have any value, because you can't demonstrate anything that's in your head. Like, what is a surgeon without the ability to do surgery? Like they're void of their task.
Right.
And I couldn't do anything now. But my brother saw that I was about to cry, and maybe it was, I think, mostly genuine sentiment, but also I don't think he wanted the wrath of our family, of our parents. So he like stopped me before I could run inside sobbing, and handed me the ball. It was trying to show me a way to shoot. which didn't work. And I missed, but I got the idea that this person's on my team, to keep the metaphor going, perhaps. That was when I started actually joining in the family board games. That was when I would start talking to Zach, when Zach would start talking to me. And like all, maybe not all, but like most brothers, we fought a bunch of times, especially like in the late teens area. But it was, I think one of the best things is having that brother. But there were so many different things that could have gone wrong, that could have deviated.
Of course. And you know how many children don't even get placed in one family, let alone having families interview to take you.
Yeah.
I don't even want to fathom, because I saw a list of kids who were orphans from the Gyumri earthquake, and that was probably the hardest thing to see as a parent.
Yeah.
It's also, they will never find a home. They would have never found a home.
At the same time, I would never call myself lucky, only because I want to. I do, and I used to. But I said that to Digin Mariam, to Miss Marianne once, who I call my grandma, and she wound up to slap me. She's never hit me in her life. She wound up to slap me. I was maybe 15 years old when this happened. And I've never, fortunately I was 15 and she was, in her like 60s, so I could dodge a slap. And she said, with her finger pointed to me, she's like, "You are a survivor, and you are from a people who are survivors. Don't you dare give luck the honor of being an intrinsic survivor
of what you are."
It doesn't mean that those who died don't have the survivor gene. It means that having that survivor gene means that there will be survivors despite the trials and tribulations and absolute tragedies that rock our people. Someone asked me, how would you define Armenians in one word? And I would say rebuilders.
Rebuilders, right.
Which entails, you crack that word open, that something was broken, something was lost.
Of course.
And that's to me what we are. And I think that's kind of what we're doing now.
Yeah, we are, again. So how can we reflect upon Gyumri and then fast forward to 2020, 2021? I feel like we're constantly in survival mode, which I've mentioned so many times in my interviews with so many people. Like, we're constantly rebuilding and surviving one trauma after the other and one tragedy after the other.
It's like playing defense against life.
Exactly. Or against the world, really.
Yeah, against the world, yeah.
So and we'll wrap it up.
I find Gyumri, the Gyumri Spitak earthquake interesting on 1,000 levels, obviously, many of which deeply personal.
Right.
But the Gyumri Spitak earthquake was a time in which the entire world kind of came together. The United States and Russia even worked together. We had so many people. Charles Aznavour had this massive project with his music and other artists, and raised so much money. You had all these donations, all these things, and Gyumri wasn't rebuilt.
Right.
Because there were politicians and people at every level who were stealing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the shipping containers, which would provide these things, became homes, temporary homes, domiks, and then became homes for a year or two, and then homes for a decade, and now still homes, 32
these
and a half
trailers
years later.
That are still there.
Yeah. You found these dialysis machines, these giant glass, I guess it's not entirely glass, but they would be in a Moscow market to sell as an aquarium. We still see this happening right now.
Of course.
And I'm not afraid to say that Zvartnots has confiscated so many things.
That we've sent.
Absolutely. Including over 1,000 sleeping bags. And I get that there are procedures. I get it.
They're putting them in containers, and they're expiring medication, and it's just ridiculous.
So, benefit of the doubt is incompetence.
Right.
Take that benefit out. It is corruption.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anywhere on this spectrum is unacceptable.
Of course.
And this requires us to hold them responsible furiously. Yeah. We had, I'm not going to say who was the person doing it, but we had one of my friends, I was right next to them, had a particular piece of equipment that would very much help those who are burn victims. As we know, there are quite a few because of the white phosphorus that they used illegally. Not that white phosphorus itself is illegal, but the way they used it was illegal. And that particular laser, which would benefit so many soldiers and civilians, was confiscated, even with the head of the special forces and the doctor for whom that laser would be given, who
knows the knowledge of how to use it.
Well, he was the one who runs the hospital.
Right,
So this isn't like a random nurse, nothing against nurses, and a random soldier, definitely not a thing against their soldiers, but it was the people with whom you wouldn't mess. You would take their words seriously. And these two individuals, meeting them going through the gate, even going through where you shouldn't go through as in any airport, but going through to the other side, meeting us and arguing with the people there, and it was still confiscated. That needs to stop. And that requires an outside force or something.
To hold them accountable.
Because if it's not held accountable, it's only going to become further and further habituated. The corruption, if it is not dealt with head on, will perpetuate. It doesn't matter who's the prime minister or who's the president.
Right.
If the systems are corrupt, if the justice system is corrupt, no one who belongs in jail will go to jail.
Right.
If you can buy your certificates as a dentist or a nurse, you won't have the best medical team, no matter how intelligent Armenians are.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We have to do a deep cleaning to the corruption, and people say, okay, well, how?
Yeah.
By holding them responsible, by broadcasting it, by going to the people at the top and letting them know what's happening.
That we know what happened.
And if they don't do anything, you don't give them your business anymore. You just don't. And I mean, I'm not going to say exactly what we're going to do with Zavat Notes if that happens again, but we're creating steps for all of these things.
Yeah.
There's a reason, the Velvet Revolution, while some may frown on, Nicole's many mistakes, I will say the idea that you can topple an oligarchy without a single drop of bloodshed is unheard of. So I believe in the capacity of the Armenian people, diasporans and locals and repats, which I would say is in between, to be able to reshape Armenia. But I think we have to start learning our lessons. We can't be naive about who we are, and we can't be naive about what the world is like. That requires a true, honest, genuine, and indomitable bar that we have to set for ourselves. I was at a cafe once, and it was a 15-minute delay for a coffee, and someone said to me, like, it's Armenia. And I was ready to scream at the waiter. I instead turned to my friend and roared at them. I was like, don't you say that. Don't you say that. When you say that kind of thing, you are saying that Armenia is synonymous to mediocrity or sub-mediocrity. That shit needs to stop. We need to say, get up, tell the waiter publicly, tell the manager, like be a Karen if that's what people are gonna say. Be the Karen, everyone. But it is so important for all of us on a small scale, medium scale, large scale to hold these entities, because the Soviet idea of if you spoke ill about the entities, you'd vanish, doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
We should take advantage of that. When the Syrian influx came in 2011, 2012, the Armenian Syrians, suddenly all these new restaurants. Why? Because they didn't have that Soviet mind state. Nothing against those that do, but you need that exchange of ideas.
Right.
Same with the influx of French Armenians, with Argentinian Armenians. Each of these influxes are good because Armenia's biggest...
They bring something new to the table.
So Armenia's biggest weakness is its homogeny. Adding that heterogeneity permits that exchange of ideas. It enables that, and that's what evolves things. It also allows people to say, no, I'm not going to do this ridiculous corrupt act, because where I come from, that was never a standard.
Right.
But we need everyone on board. Everyone on board.
Take some time.
It's going to take unity. If we want to accelerate it, we need unity. And unity, again, as people are like, we don't all have to agree. We don't. We could apply it in 17,000 different ways. But we do have to have a high standard for Armenia, or else we should accept the low standard that it will become.
And it'll just keep getting lower. And eventually disappear.
So that's the lesson I have.
Tying Gyumri.
We can all come
I just wanted to reiterate what Sam was saying, that we need to keep that unity. We need to keep the holding everyone accountable, not just people in Armenia or just us talking to some people that we're close to, but just even if we disagree, even if you're relocating to Armenia, going back to live there, whether you're here or wherever you may be, but just keeping that closeness and community together. I want to wrap up this episode with you, Sam. There's so much to talk about. Maybe we can do part 2. I would love that.
Sure,
I would absolutely love it. You're very articulate. You're so well spoken. You're a great storyteller.
I read a dictionary before this to prepare. So I had to
Stop it.
make sure I can keep up.
No, you're very good. You're very good. I love it. And one more shout out. We had this displaying the whole time. Tell us a little bit about Hokis and why it's so important to you, because you're always famous for your beanie.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, Hokis means my soul. It's actually my friend's company. And she's just a young girl who decided to start her own clothing company. She's very passionate about fashion, has given proceeds to different charities within Armenia and NGOs. And the fact, I told her almost jokingly, because I wore it because my hair was a mess, as it almost always is. And I said, I'm gonna wear the beanie. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if I wore it all the time as an unofficial
spokesperson?
Yeah, brand representative.
Yeah.
And she was laughing. She was like, I bet you won't do, why, you won't do that. And I was like, you know what? I am constantly preaching about unity, about supporting. You have to do your homework and research to make sure you're not supporting someone who's just boasting their, or taking advantage of, or even appropriating Armenian culture. But I know her, and she's a good person, a good Armenian, a good young female entrepreneur who wants the best for Armenia. And also behind is my security system. That's Vartan Archanyan. That's from Homeland. That's Timothy Strait from HDIF, who also employs a bunch of Armenians. But it's all about uplifting the people who are doing good, because in the end, that empowers Armenia. It's all about identifying, uniting, and empowering. And that's, I think, that's my adage. That's my motto, my mantra. See, I didn't see that. I skipped over the M page.
Okay.
But so that's one of the reasons why I always wear Hokis. It's also I love the name Hokis.
I do too.
And I love the beanie. Actually, could even rock it right now.
Go for it. Go for it. You were apart from it for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam John, thank you for hosting this. Thank you for inviting me to your home. I will be back because I absolutely love New York.
I'll be back.
Yeah, and you can come to LA. We can even do follow-ups there.
Are there a few Armenians there in LA?
Just a couple.
Yeah, there's a few there.
In Glendale, you might find one or two.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will have Sam's information of his Instagram handle and everything like that, and also the website for CoOp, where people can see the work that you guys have done and also donate and all.
Maybe
all
even
that.
volunteer.
Or volunteer, yeah.
We
absolutely.
always have a lot of volunteers, but you're helping Armenia. You're at an initiative that's very much respected.
It is
perfectly transparent.
Yes.
With the amount of money we've raised is somewhere between $70 and $75 million, working in 64 villages with over 107,000 people and 170 different infrastructures being built. You can't pocket any of the money.
Exactly.
Unless you're secretly paying on your own pocket, in which case, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So it is a very transparent, open, and reputable. And even though I'm saying it, I request, before you even consider it, look into it yourself. Right. Do your homework. Always be critical of the entities that you're supporting, so that when you do support them, that they're something that you actually feel good about in the long run. Exactly. Absolutely. Do your homework. That high standard. Exactly, which goes back to holding people accountable. Look up the CoOp Children of Armenia Fund. Try to help out as much as possible. Follow Sam on Instagram. Subscribe to Candid Coffee, and we will be back in New York again soon.